Hey guys, welcome to The Green Show, and tonight we're going to be talking about the new movie Doctor Strange with our special guest. Hey guys, and our special guest is Zachary Vaudo. You guys know him as Banshee, and he also plays Doctor Strange, which we're going to be talking about tonight.
That's probably why I'm here, I guess.
He's also one of the producers, too, some of you guys may know, of the X-Men series that we do. And some news just came out yesterday that two of our short films from the series, or episodes, how you want to call it, has been selected to be viewed in the xmenfilms.com.
Yep. xmenfilms.com has chosen our episodes, Day of the Sentinels, which Eric wrote and directed, and Mojotainment, which I wrote and directed, named them as two of the best X-Men fan films on the internet.
Yeah.
And of hosting them on their site, we got little digital certificates. It was really cool. Mm-hmm. I'm really proud.
Yeah, it took me by surprise, but actually, you know, it's pretty cool. So, and then anything else you want to say about that?
Well, it is really cool, especially because, you know, like Mojotainment was back in season 3, which we've been doing it for a couple of years at that point, but we were still, I feel like, relatively new, especially compared to what we're doing now. So, you know, as soon as you told me that we got it, I watched back through and I looked at all the things that I did wrong with directing and editing. No. It's like all the ways that I screwed up, all of my terrible camera work, and it's like, wow, the fact that despite all the things that I know I could have done better, people love it that much. Yeah, and someone actually said this is one of the best things ever. It's extremely flattering.
I mean, I like Mojotainment. It's different. It's the only horror type X-Men episode, really.
For now.
Yeah, for now. It has that whole, you know, haunted house theme, and it's one of our few episodes that actually has aliens in it.
Yeah.
And see, Mojo is not even that popular right now, but once they put Mojo in a cartoon again or a new movie, then all of a sudden that film is going to be like, oh, we got a spike in viewership on that, because I think a lot of people don't know who Mojo is.
Oh yeah, but the fact is that we have that because of Scott Whipple, who brought down that entire Mojo rig from Chicago, and then the Tam, Faith, and Kylie, who, like, you know, actually worked for hours to put together that face to give Mojo articulation and that creepy, like, glaring, mouth pulled back view. Yeah. So yeah, like whenever that happens, whenever Mojo comes into the mainstream view again, it's going to be thanks to those guys that we have such a good Mojo.
Yeah. And then Day of the Sentinels, which is the episode I actually really wanted to do. I was like...
From the beginning, really.
Right, from the beginning. I was like, this is what I have to do. Everything has to be as good as I can try and make it. And I actually have a lot of memories attached to that episode. And it was fun, and not, you know, having the CGI capability to actually make Sentinels, and I actually buy a toy, one of the action figures from that, and actually just kind of included it. So that was actually... A little bit
of stop motion, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, that was my childhood episode to make when I grew up. I said, I just got to emulate the Night of the Sentinels and do Day of the Sentinels. So actually, that was pretty fun.
Yeah, it took you 4 seasons, but you finally got to the point where you could do it. And so thank you, X-Men Films Online, or xmenfilms.com, for including us among all the other fan films that you think are so fantastic.
Yep. So now we're going to roll into... Okay, so we're going to tell you our non-spoiler review of Doctor Strange, and then we're going to tell you our...
Spoiler.
Just full out everything.
Yeah, we're going to ruin everything. So... Yeah, like, stay with us right now if you want, like, a few minutes of us just, like, what we thought and things that were cool without giving stuff away. And then, like, I don't know, like, Eric will put, like, a little graphic up here that says,
like one of the timestamps up here, if you just want to skip to the goodness and just go to our all-out spoiler review, you can just click over there.
Or if you want to avoid that entirely, you just jump to the end where I'm going to be goofing off in some capacity. Yeah. So, it'll be a good chunk of the video, but you're going to want to skip that part.
All right, so we both saw Doctor Strange last night. He actually saw it in IMAX. Is IMAX 3D? Or?
IMAX 3D.
And it's 3D, okay. I didn't see the 3D. Never been really a big fan of 3D type stuff because I wear glasses in the movie theater and didn't have the 3D glasses over the glasses. Yeah. So, but I saw the regular version.
So this will be really cool because I didn't know that. So now we actually get to sort of compare, like, what was it like regular style versus all out.
Right. So, I guess we could talk about, I don't know, the tone of Doctor Strange. You know, they always said this was going to be different and the Marvel movies are going to be, you know, different. I'll start off by saying I don't know too much about Doctor Strange. I can't sit a person down and says, this is his origin from beginning to end. I did know the whole surgical part, him hurting his hands and have to find the way. I did know that part, but I don't know too much. So Zach may take over and tell you a little bit more information than what I would know. So I guess let's jump into it. And
like you were saying, like all the Marvel movies, they try to do different styles now. Now that we're past phase 2, we're going into phase 3 and whatnot. They've been trying to change things up. They've really been sort of trying to change things up since they brought the Russos on board, with Winter Soldier being more of like a spy type film, instead of a superhero type film.
And then
Ant-Man was a heist film through and through. Yeah. And then Doctor Strange. I don't know what genre to describe it, but it's very different.
I'm thinking it's like, it reminded me of RPG games, like the Elder Scrolls, or they were just saying a lot of stuff in there, like the Moguls, or there was the Moguls. They said the word Moguls in there, and I kept thinking like Final Fantasy type stuff, and it was just like a lot. So I guess you would say this movie is the magic movie.
Yes, absolutely.
And I mean, he's kind of comparable to Tony Stark in a little bit of ways, but
in a way, yeah. Stephen Strange and Tony Stark are both like very elite, best at what they do, highly arrogant because of it. They didn't really go into Stephen's womanizing the way that they did with Tony's, but that's because they didn't want to make them too similar. But they're very, very similar, but in very different like social circles.
Right.
They may have met, but probably not, because medicine and then tech. Only slightly might overlap.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's at least heard of Tony Stark because he's a celebrity.
Oh yeah, he's heard of Tony. Tony may not have heard of him. Who knows? But yeah, there are similarities, and I think that's important because now that we're into phase 3, we're starting to move into a new wave of heroes like Black Panther, Ant-Man, against bringing Spider-Man in, Captain Marvel. So eventually, the older heroes are going to wind up phasing out, and so they're trying to come up with their allegories of who we had previously.
Who's going to be set up next? So we know Miss Marvel's coming, and all that stuff.
Yeah. So who's gonna replace who? And I would say that Tony would be replaced by Stephen in a sense. Not necessarily because they're the exact same, but in terms of personality-wise. Stephen's becoming a lot more humble through the course of this movie, but he's still pompous and snarky, and I thinks he's the best.
And I love the visual effects in this movie. From what we've seen in the trailer, this is just like enhanced when you see the movie, especially when Doctor Strange is first sent into his little trip wave. I thought that was a really great scene.
Oh yeah, no.
I don't know how it was in IMAX 3D, but I will say what I'm starting to notice is when I was seeing it in the regular version, I can see how the screen wasn't crystal clear, and I think that's why they're trying to push IMAX, because IMAX is supposed to be the movie theater's definition of HD, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah.
So that kind of took a little bit from it. So I would suggest, and I saw a lot of interviews from actors saying the only way to see Doctor Strange is in IMAX. And I was like, they're just saying that just because they want the IMAX ticket sales. But I actually think it's probably true.
I will have to see it again in regular theaters, but I definitely think that 3D is important because of just how heavy they went into the visuals. Yeah. There's so much complexity going on. They dumped everything into the visuals here. They created so many vast worlds and dimensions. Massive respect paid to Steve Ditko, who did a lot of the original art. It wasn't quite a Ditko verse with like the tentacles and like eyeballs floating around, but there were a lot of times where you really got that classic Doctor Strange feel, while also getting a lot of the newer stuff that they were trying to pull in and make things more modernized.
And I also love the fights, because I thought it was going to be strictly I cast a spell, you cast a spell, but there was some parts where there were actual martial arts in there mixed with the magic. And I was like, okay, this is very interesting, and I can already see myself watching this movie.
And that's because a lot of times. That's because Doctor Strange he's not just a spellcaster. He's trained in the mystic arts, and martial arts is usually wrapped up in mystic arts, both in fiction and nowadays. Martial arts has a lot of mysticism attached to it, whether or not you buy into it. So they go hand in hand.
And now I'm interested to see what they're actually going to do with the Iron Fist film, because he deals with that not as crazy as Doctor Strange, but he still deals with that whole magic chi.
There will be a mystical
thing.
world going on. There's a strong like magic movement going on right now
But
in Marvel live
right.
action. Doctor Strange in the movie, Iron Fist in Netflix.
See,
They got Ghost Rider on Shield right now. He's sort of the magical
Yeah, and they're
element.
going through. Yeah, and I think that's why they actually did Luke Cage before Iron Fist, because of when Doctor Strange was coming out.
Yeah.
Because if Iron Fist came out first, I'm like, I don't know, it's a little bit too much, but it's all set up.
Yeah, because they did Ghost Rider first on Shield, but he's not quite magic. He's just like that little taste of magic,
Right.
and we had tastes of magic this whole way through. Like Loki is an illusionist, and even though Thor's like your science and our magic are the same thing, Loki was definitely casting illusions the entire time.
Yeah.
And then Wanda being Wanda, doing whatever Wanda does. The fact that they didn't even try to explain that in Age of Ultron was significant. But yeah, now we're getting real magic.
even Wanda has really crazy magic that they still haven't really
Oh, yeah.
did too much with it. So we'll see if she evolves or not. And one of the reasons I really want to see Doctor Strange is because I personally believe that the X-Men and Fantastic Four is going to join the MCU. So I like to look at those movies to see how it's going to connect to the X-Men. How is the Fantastic Four going to be in this? And Marvel. They did something with Fox to make the Legion TV show. I know something's happening. They're going to break this news next year, next spring or summer. I'm predicting it now because you have to have Silver Surfer with the direction they're going within the MCU.
And with stuff that they touched on in the movie, like I don't know if they're if they want to bring the exact X-Men, Fantastic Four stuff over, or if they want to do a Spider-Man and just sort of like forget all that other stuff. But but there is definitely a way to bridge the worlds.
Yeah, especially I think Doctor Strange really can make that possible now. I was trying to follow. Well, anyway, so we're gonna get into the spoilers now.
Yep. So that's pretty much the end of it. The last thing I want to say about it is just again the last thing I want to say about the movie before we go into the spoiler stuff is that originally I was very hesitant of Benedict Cumberbatch as a choice for Doctor Strange.
Really?
Yeah, I was because I've seen him mostly in Sherlock and a couple other things, and I like his acting, but my big thing was I was concerned that by casting Benedict Cumberbatch, they were going to make Doctor Strange British, because it would be so easy to do. He doesn't have to try, and I'm very, very tired of the British magical man trope. I think that Doctor Strange being an American is very important because it has to do it ties in his upbringing, the arrogance, the elitism. Yeah. He's born in Pittsburgh, grows up in Nebraska, lives in New York, and then being pulled from America all the way over to Camartage.
See, I felt that way about Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One. That was the person I really the most was like, I don't know. And
I also felt that way.
But see, even after seeing the movie, I still feel that way. I still feel like they could have put an Asian man in that role. It did not have to be a white bald woman.
So, fun thing, the director actually talks about this a bit, and as to why he owns up to their choices. And originally they didn't want to do they didn't want to have the Ancient One be an old Asian man
because of the stereotype.
Because of the stereotype.
Yeah.
It's an old drawn out stereotype. The same thing with Wong. In the comics, Wong is he's described as a manservant in many regards, and over time he gets an evolution. He's a lot more of a friend and a trainee and has some mentor roles and shared experiences with Strange. And so in the movie, they really go that way to go away from the Asian manservant Kato sort of deal.
But her character has been around forever, right?
Yes.
So I would think that in that culture was probably mainstream more so in the Asian culture. So for a white woman to just be around way back then, it's I'm taking this on, I'm taking in this heritage type thing. I think that in that sense it makes sense if it was still an Asian guy. I know Mordos it was Asian, they made him black.
Yeah, it could make sense, but yeah, it could make sense. But again, you still wind up with that ancient Asian teacher stereotype. And so what I was saying was that Scott Derrickson, he addressed that and he said because we wanted to break that stereotype, the first thing that they said was we have to make the Ancient One a woman. And so they tried looking for Asian women. And according to Derrickson, it was a major failing on his part and the writer's part that they couldn't do an Asian woman because they were unable to write the part for an Asian woman without making her yet another stereotype, which is the dragon lady stereotype in Asian culture. So they basically abandoned the entire Asian concept because they wanted to make it a woman, but they couldn't. They couldn't do it. Which that's not quite an excuse as far as I'm concerned. You could have found somebody that could have maybe written it better, but I appreciate them wanting to not be a stereotype so much.
Yeah.
So it's a balance. And Tilda Swinton's a great actress, and she nailed the role anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, slight disappointment there, but not enough for me to really like hate the movie.
Right.
All right, so Benedict Cumberbatch nailed it, as far as I'm concerned.
So now we're gonna start the spoilers.
Yeah. So now you jump ahead if you don't want to hear the rest of this.
Yeah.
We'll give you time to
fast
forward.
There's another goodie after this, so if you want to jump to that, you can.
You can watch me acting like an idiot, sort of. I guess I don't know.
But this spoiler review, we are going to go in great detail.
Lots
so
of detail.
If you literally don't want to know anything about the Strange movie, or after you see the Strange movie, you can come back and you can watch this video.
Yes.
So
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spoiler time.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, okay. So now we're I'm actually supposed to go, and then that cuts into it. Okay. So so now we're going to talk about the spoilers. We only saw the movie once.
Yes.
1.1, I guess.
I saw the extended trailer, the 15 minutes that they did of Doctor Strange, which didn't spoil a whole lot for me. It gave me the entire open your mind trip, so I got to see all the various dimensions. I got to see the big chase scene with Caecilius through the mirrored New York and whatnot.
But we're gonna but basically we in a sense we only saw it once, but we're gonna use our brain power to try to memorize this whole movie. So to start off with the film does start off. Actually, is this the first film where they actually have the new Marvel logo on it now?
I can't remember if they had it.
I definitely got a Disney feel from that damn thing.
I can't remember if they had it in Civil War or not, but it's definitely it's one of the first, if not the first.
I don't think it was in Civil War. I don't remember it being that drawn out. But then again, I think that new intro is already on YouTube before Doctor Strange came out. So
True.
I don't know, whatever.
But yeah, so they had the brand new intro, which was super cool.
But I got the Disney vibe in it because I think they in the background they actually show Thor's Asgard in the background for half a second, but the shot that they have of Asgard looks like the Disney castle thing, and that's what I had. And then the music that they changed up, I was like, okay, Disney, you're trying to put your logo out there and you're just trying to disguise it. So I got that feeling,
which was kind of cool.
So then the movie starts off with
they're in Camartage. We get into the library of Camartage, all the books and whatnot, and we get an immediate introduction to the villain Caecilius, played by Mads Mikkelsen,
up front,
whom I will go ahead and say. He brought so much to such a tiny role by comparison. Marvel has a habit of casting very, very talented actors in very not complex roles.
He was good, but he was distracting to me because he had a saliva problem. You keep seeing this slimy spit in his mouth, and it was just so gross.
But I think that's part of the thing. Is Caecilius is he's a very vulgar sort of person, so it really played up with it. Now, Mads Mikkelsen sort of has that anyway. He has got a very strange face and a strange way of talking, and it can be a bit distracting. But back to the point is, I think that they didn't need to cast Mads Mikkelsen in this role, but they benefited so much from doing it. Anybody could have played Caecilius, but casting Mads gave the character more dimension than he actually had.
So the movie starts off.
Caecilius shows up and kills the librarian of Camartage and steals pages from the ancient tome of Castiglio. I can't remember the exact name of it. Oh, so many strange names in Doctor Strange. But he steals pages and immediately portals out into, I think it might have been London. Hard to tell. London or New York. He portals out into some city that is very much.
In New York.
It's some city that is very much not Camartage, and immediately encounters the Ancient One. Who's not revealed to us as the Ancient One, but it's the Ancient One.
Right.
They engage in a battle in a mirror dimension, which we get later on as well, where everything starts folding in on each other, the buildings start moving and shifting. That's all the stuff that you started seeing in the trailers.
The Inception stuff.
All the Inception stuff, which is like a fraction of the cool shit in this movie.
Yeah.
They battle, people die, Caecilius escapes, and just all that cool stuff happens. And then that's our first introduction to the magic. And we immediately hard butt into Dr. Stephen Strange.
Yeah, so then Doctor Strange, or Stephen Strange is basically being very cocky. He's like have music playing as trivia, and then they have
while he's doing brain surgery.
Yeah, and that they're like, you can't guess the year, and the year was like 1977, and then the guy was like, no, it was 1978.
Yeah, and it's just showing how much of a show off Steven is.
Just,
like he
knows everything, and then like
I can pull a bullet out of somebody's brain while dancing along to the greatest hits of the 70s and telling you all the facts about it because I'm just that damn good. And there are like interns over in the observation room just like fawning over him while they take notes and stuff, and he like freehand pulls a bullet out of a brain because he's that cool. And it's a whole arrogance.
They just want to show you how he's just extremely confident, and not really that considerate either.
No.
And then that's when we come into his girlfriend,
Dr. Palmer.
Alligator is a girlfriend.
He was like, they had a thing.
Well, he said that later. He's like, we're barely a couple,
right?
So to me, girlfriend to me, and basically, he the way he's talking to her is basically like everything is about him.
Yeah,
and she's like, it's always about you, and
and that's what
interested in your speeches.
That's why they weren't really a couple. Like they were a couple for a while, but then after a while, Dr. Palmer was like, everything's about Steven. I don't want to do that.
And then this is when he is in his car next. Very nice car too.
After getting dressed in his very nice suit and his very nice watches and his very nice penthouse.
Oh yeah, because they really hint at time. Time is the definite theme of this movie. So they really do close-ups of all the watches, and then his girlfriend has the printed thing on the back of the watch.
Yeah,
and it's just a whole bunch of time.
So lots of driving. We get
it's an accident's going to happen. Like, I mean, it's raining and he's driving super fast on a very tiny road.
It's a huge don't text and drive PSA. Because he's like talking on the phone and looking at pictures.
And then he gets the Easter egg.
Sort of, yeah. So there's a debated Easter egg when he's being given the various potential patients. The very first one is an Air Force colonel, lieutenant, I can't remember the one, who was injured, who was spinal injury in a high-powered suit. A lot of people think that that's James Rhodes, but Scott Derrickson was directly asked this in like an Ask Reddit thread where like leading up to the movie, and someone said, "Hey, so heard about this? Is that James Rhodes?" And he just flat out said, "No, it's not. No working around it, no qualifications." He said no. So, that could still be an Easter egg. If you remember Iron Man 2, the Hammer Tech guys who like his spine got like twisted in half by the suit that Hammer was trying to do, it could still be that, which puts the movie in an interesting time.
Because I think the movie, they don't really say it, but I believe the movie takes place in two different time periods in the MCU. So one would take you back to around 2010, and then I think the second half, that's where the big question mark is. Where in the hell did this happen? But we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. But yeah,
so then his car hits
burn.
the tip of the car he tries to pass, and I'm talking about this car is flipping forever. I'm like, damn, this crash is never going to end.
And then you see in very vivid detail how the car smashes into his hands, his livelihood, and crushes them.
Yeah, right.
It's not graphic, but it's enough for you to be like, oh.
You get the picture,
You get it very well.
And then his car lands into the water, and then what's the scene after that?
Hospital.
They rushed him to the hospital, and they said because you were in that accident for so long, and it took them a while to find him, then all the nerve damage happened.
He's got pins and rods in his hands, and he's freaking out because he knows that means his surgery's over. And so like from that point forward, he's trying everything. He's like pushing the board to do experimental procedures, like putting a stent down his arm and stuff like that, doing physical therapy.
He's spending a lot of money, and you can kind of tell, because I think like stuff in his place was starting to disappear slowly.
Towards the end of it, his penthouse starts getting a little bare because he's selling things in order to try all these experimental things.
And the more he goes, you can see the more desperate he's getting, and the more scared he's getting. He's like, oh, this is over. Like, my career is over.
His hands are shaking while he tries to do anything. He can't shave anymore. He can barely write his name. He pushes Dr. Palmer out of his life because he thinks that she's pitying him.
He actually says some really
terrible things.
Yeah, really bad stuff to her, and she's like, goodbye.
Yeah, and understandably. And at that point, he finally gets a lead from his physical therapist who tells him like the only person that he ever saw that came back from a massive like nerve damage, spine damage injury, like he walked past him one day, and the dude eventually digs up the file for him, and it's Benjamin Bratt.
Yeah.
Not that's not actually Benjamin. It's the actor Benjamin Bratt.
Yeah.
Benjamin
Well,
Bratt is not a character in this movie.
Yeah. So then Doctor Strange visits him at the basketball court. And was
Which
like,
may or may not be a tie back to Benjamin Bratt's role in Catwoman. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm going to pretend it is.
And basically he's asking him questions, and then Benjamin Bratt's like, look, you turned me away. You basically treated me dirty. Why should I help you?
Yeah,
and
because
then,
surgery, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then he finally tells him about Camartage.
Right. He doesn't give him too much detail. It's more so like, if you want all your answers, you need to pretty much just go there. And
he does.
Yeah, because he has literally no other option. So then he goes to
Nepal. Kathmandu, Nepal.
Yeah, okay. So he goes there and
walking around asking everybody, Camartage, anybody, Camartage?
And then Mordo's there,
yes.
And then he observes him, and then he gets robbed in the alleyway.
Yeah, but it's important. That's the first time we get to see Mordo. Mm-hmm. Doctor Strange fans will know that Baron Mordo is one of the main antagonists of Doctor Strange. But
so I can't get to that part yet.
That's right. But here he gets what I affectionately call the Green Lantern treatment. In the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie, we meet Sinestro for the first time as an ally of Green Lantern. Baron Mordo is an ally to Doctor Strange in this movie. Just like that's his thing.
Well, Mordo doesn't approach Strange; he just observes him.
He observes Strange until it's time to approach him,
right.
Which is when he's getting his ass kicked.
So he's in the alleyway. He gets approached by like three natives from that city, and he's like, "Please don't rob me." And they're like, "We want the watch," and he's like, "No, the watch is everything that I have." And they end up breaking the watch during the tussle. Mordo comes in and does his little thing. Yeah, he basically saves him, and then he sees that his watch is now broken, and which is another hint at the time theme. And from there, Mordo was like, obviously,
you were asking about Camartage. Yeah. You ought to come with me. Mm-hmm. And Mordo brings Doctor Strange to Camartage, which is a very innocuous building. They walk through the door, and it's a nice little room. There's people drinking tea and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Doctor Strange, being the presumptuous American that he is, immediately goes up to the old Asian man, assuming that he is the aforementioned ancient one that Mordo tells him about.
While the actual ancient woman is actually pouring him
while Tilda Swinton is pouring him tea, he's talking to the old Asian guy, like, "Oh, you must be the ancient one." And Tilda Swinton goes, "Well, yes, I am."
Yeah. And then from there, they have their dialogue, and basically he's like, what's like, have you been practicing some type of medicine or whatever? And she's basically like, no. She sort of does the science and magic are the same thing bit, where she starts explaining how things like chakras and acupuncture and MRIs are all parts of the same map of the human body. Right. And Doctor Strange is having none of this shit. He's so mad. He wasted his time, and
he's so mad. He's like, jabbing his finger into the ancient one, and that's when she bitch slaps him out of his own body.
And that's when he goes into his astral forms, and he looks at his hands, and he's looking at them. You can see Mortal like holding them up, and then he jumps back in,
and he doesn't know what happened.
Right, and he thinks something is in the tea, and he's like, "What's going on with this?"
And that's when the ancient one explains that you simply have to open your mind. Puts a hand on his head, and that's when the fun begins.
Right, and then this scene right here is I think it's one of the coolest scenes in the whole movie.
Possibly one of the coolest scenes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I would say.
Well, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely in the top 3 scenes. And he's just going through, like, I guess you can explain it better, but it's just a whole bunch of just crazy stuff that I can't even explain, really.
So, when the Ancient One explained that all of these different images of the human body, chakras, MRIs, acupuncture maps, etc., are all parts of the same whole, it was an allegory for how you are experiencing one dimension. And there are many dimensions, infinite dimensions. And Doctor Strange gets the campus tour of the dimensions, where he is kicked up, basically like up into space, and then across space and time, into the dark dimension very briefly, into wormholes. There's tentacle dimensions, light dimensions, mirror dimensions, where there's a million of himself.
It looked like there was, I want to say it's different planets, but it was like sphere-like things that looked like there was different worlds.
That's the dark dimension that he passed through very briefly, because we see it again later on in the movie, and we'll go into it there. But yeah, he winds up in a dimension of fractals, where his hand starts sprouting tiny hands. And then
Oh,
his
yeah,
body
that was weird.
starts,
Yeah.
and then his body starts sprouting hands,
Yeah.
and his body becomes hands, which then turns into his face made out of hands, including
Yeah.
a giant eyeball, which he then falls through. He falls through his own eyeball, clings
Oh,
onto
yeah,
it, and
yeah,
drags
yeah.
out before going into the next dimension.
Just a lot of
Please do
crazy
not
stuff.
see this movie high.
Yeah, if you see it high,
It's a terrible idea.
like if you're on shrooms or something, I don't know what. Like I've never been on it before, but I'm sure like it'd be like a crazy trip.
I stopped breathing while I was watching this in the 15-minute preview. I did it again while I was watching it for real. Stone sober.
So then he
Do
comes,
not watch this movie high.
So then he comes back and he like, what was that? No, he's like, teach me.
Teach me. I
Yeah,
need to
so
know
like
everything that you just
yeah.
showed me. Oh my God, you've opened my mind to everything. And the Ancient One looks him in the eye and goes, no.
Right.
And kicks him out.
Yeah, and kicks him out. And he's like, no. It's like you opening up someone's third eye and you're showing them, nothing they ever experienced before. And now someone just kicks you out. You're like, no, I want some more. I want some more. And so he's banging on this door for like 5 hours. And, Mortal's like, we should give this guy another chance.
We need help. This man, like, he has a passion and a perseverance. Caecilius is still out there. We need all the help we can get, sort of deal. So eventually they go, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So they bring him in, they give him his own room, and that's when you saw from the trailer where Mortal gives him the paper that says Shambhala on it, and Shambhala is a reference to a Doctor Strange, I want to say graphic novel, or is it just a regular comic book?
It's I guess it's a trade paperback eventually, so graphic novel.
So it's just that, and it's actually the Wi-Fi password.
We're not savages.
Yeah. So then when she's ready for him, you see him like on a training, like a, what do you call that? Like a floor with other students there, and they're all like doing focusing on their energy and creating all these energy symbols.
Yeah.
Nothing over dramatic, just showing that if you concentrate enough, you can do it. So Strange is there, and he's like, he can't do anything. Like, this is crazy.
Because a lot of it involves handwork. They actually, the production actually brought in finger tutters, like the hand dancers that like make all the very cool designs with your hands that I can't do, and I look like an idiot trying to do it. They brought those guys on for consultation so that people could do all the really cool magical hand gestures.
But it seemed like they had to have this ring thing on their fingers.
That's a specific type of magic, but for the most part, like when the Ancient One was creating this giant symbol, that like the resonating symbol, that was just handwork. But Doctor Strange can't really do this because he still has the nerve damage.
Right.
The thing that Eric was talking about was portaling between locations. They have a special ring, it's called a sling ring, that they wear that draw their energy in so that they can create portals that they can then pass through.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I believe next is when he keeps trying.
He keeps trying
then,
the sling ring, and he's failing, and everybody else is making cool portals, and he's making sparks. And he's like, I can't do this because of my hands. And then the Ancient One's like, hey, old Asian guy that Doctor Strange thought was the Ancient One earlier, come over here. And old Asian guy comes over and makes awesome magic with one hand because the other hand is missing. He's like, no, it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with you. So
yeah, because even he makes it, however you want to do it.
He does the
to
cool
show that
stuff.
It's in the mind, and then so she tests him and takes him to Everest.
Yep, in a trial by fire or trial by ice, I guess you would say.
Yeah, she's basically like, I think she said after so many minutes, the body will just freeze, basically.
30 minutes you'd freeze, 2 minutes you go into shock.
Right, so he had basically 2 minutes,
or
a little bit over 2 minutes to portal his way back.
Yeah, she dumps his ass on Everest and he's like, okay, have fun, bye.
So then he actually, Mortal's like, no, he's not going to make it. And she's like, yeah, let's just give him time. So she's like really having faith in him.
She's nervous, but she's having faith.
Yeah, and then he makes it through, which I think that was kind of predictable. Like,
of course it was predictable. There was a part of me, because Dan Harmon, the guy who wrote like Community and Rick and Morty, had a part in some rewrites, there was a part of me that thought they were going to wait, and then go, okay, never mind, and go get him. Just like make you think he was going to make it back. But they went the predictable route, and that's fine because they need to progress the movie.
Yeah, and just to speed things up a little bit. So after that, we basically see,
training.
Well, he trains. He reads a lot of books. He gets a lot of knowledge. He's actually advancing quickly.
He interacts with Wong a lot, who's been elevated to Wong has become the librarian and sort of another mentor for Doctor Strange. Massive step up from the manservant role. Very happy, especially with Benedict Wong as the actor.
Right.
Great quips and exchanges between them. Mostly Steven and then Wong straight manning it.
Yeah, and then after that, they have this little joke about, how he only has the one name, comparing it to Eminem and
Cher,
Bono, and, all
Aristotle.
those guys. So he's listening to music and it's actually distracting him, and that's when Doctor Strange uses portals to actually steal book to get more knowledge. And then the last thing he come across is the book that we see from the beginning of the film, where the pages were actually ripped out, and he sees the eye of
He sees the Eye of Agamotto.
Yeah, that right.
Theirs looks a little different because theirs is a little different. But he sees the Eye of Agamotto, and he sees the book that he was explicitly told. He wasn't told not to read it. He was told not to practice any of the spells in it,
right.
Which is, I think very fair. But he does it anyway,
Anyway.
because he's infinitely curious. So he takes the Eye of Agamotto, he puts it on, he does the motions to open the Eye of Agamotto, and that's when we get our first look at what's inside the Eye of Agamotto.
Right.
Which is, partially to my chagrin, an Infinity Stone.
Infinity Stone, and this Infinity Stone is the Time Gem or the Time Stone.
Yes.
So, and this is it's so powerful because you can rewind time, fast forward time, alter time.
Which he does using the spells in the book to disintegrate and reconstitute an apple.
Right.
He then also does it to bring back the pages that were stolen, where he finally learns the name Dormammu.
Which I'm actually glad they did that because if they didn't do that, people would say, well, why didn't he just use it to just bring the pages back? So I guess they're getting smarter.
But they point out how doing what he was doing is a terrible idea.
Because now it's going to have a ripple effect.
Because as a ripple effect, it causes fractures in time, and that gets to what we were saying earlier. These fractures in time, it creates derivatives of time, according to the movie. And that can be where your various dimensions and alternate realities come into play with the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and everything else.
See, in my mind...
That could be your lead-in.
In my mind, because he did that, this is why we have 2 different versions, or technically 3 different versions of the Fantastic Four. This is why certain actors in the MCU have been recast. And the same thing with X-Men. So in my mind, Doctor Strange is the reason why we have so many recasts. Like Spider-Man. Spider-Man's been rebooted because of Doctor Strange.
Because of all the messing, because there's a lot of messing with time in this movie, and if it's causing all these ripple effects, who knows? Right. But yeah, so he's told that's where he learns the name Dormammu.
And then he gets interrupted by Wong and Mordo, who's like, "What are you doing?" And they're probably kind of surprised that he can even do that.
Yeah, they're very surprised he can do that. But they take the time to explain the Eye of Agamotto and what it is, sort of what it is, and also how they have all this protection over the planet Earth in the form of sanctums. 3 sanctums around the world: New York, Hong Kong, and London, which promptly gets destroyed upon them mentioning it because the London Guardian is fleeing through the door. Caecilius is there, kills the guard, blows up the London Sanctum, which propels Strange through the New York Sanctum.
Right.
And now we're fast forwarding into the plot.
Yeah. And so now he basically
explores the Sanctum.
Well, yeah, he explores the Sanctum. He runs into Caecilius and his 2 goons.
Yep.
They have the little fight. He takes care of 1 goon, and now we have 2 left.
He encounters the Cloak of Levitation.
Yeah, that's where you see that.
He gains that. He fights a lot. He gets his dialogue with Caecilius. Mads Mikkelsen provides a very, very strong acting thing for, again, a very tiny bit where we actually get the dark dimension. And then Doctor Strange gets blindsided.
Well, yeah, this is when Caecilius is basically explaining that the Ancient One is basically working with Dormammu.
Or drawing power from him in some capacity.
Which is supposed to be a big no-no. You don't ever touch anything to do with him, and she's sent up here. Well, basically, you don't know if he's just trying to manipulate Strange with a lie, or he's actually telling you the truth, and that's why you should probably join him.
Right. But it doesn't matter because... It serves its purpose, which is to distract Doctor Strange long enough to get stabbed in the back by one of his minions.
Right, yeah. And then he goes into a fight with the minion, which brings him, excuse me, he gets hurt.
He gets stabbed, he gets hurt, he's fleeing, he needs somewhere to go to be safe, and the first place that he thinks of is right back to his hospital.
Yeah,
with Dr. Palmer. So he portals into there and finds Dr. Palmer so she can save him.
Right.
She does.
But in the midst of it, one of Caecilius' guy, I guess we'll call him minion number 1.
It's Scott Adkins, I believe, or Akins. I can't remember his name. He's a great stunt fighter.
Okay.
But yeah, he
in astral form. That's how he actually got to the Earth form or Earth world or whatever.
Yeah, so that's how we got to New York from there.
And so we see our first astral projection fight.
Yeah,
which is actually pretty cool. Won't get too much into detail, but that was actually.
We don't want to spoil too much, but yeah, Doctor Strange versus Minion in the astral realm, battling it out, while the real world is sort of affected by it, but not quite. And it's a very cool concept to see, like, ghosts fighting, basically.
Yeah, it's almost like ghost fighting, and if they pass through something, and like something to slightly move and whatever.
Yeah, they could drop a guy on the table, and the table will kind of go like. Eh.
Yeah. So then Doctor Strange says, Palmer, thanks for your help, basically, but I gotta go.
Yeah, so I gotta go. By the way, I'm a wizard.
He goes back to check on Caecilius because Caecilius was like trapped in this thing, and while he was explaining everything that's going on, he's not there anymore. Obviously, he escaped somehow, and then that's when Wong and Mordo meets back up with him,
along with the Ancient One.
Oh yeah, with the Ancient One.
And they're like, "Oh my God, you have the Cloak of Levitation. That's so cool.
Yeah.
You've defended the New York Sanctum. You're the Guardian of the New York Sanctum." And Doctor Strange goes, "Whoa, wait a minute. I just killed a guy, and that's a problem for me."
But I think this is also the moment when Mordo and the Ancient One realize that Strange is somewhat the chosen one, because you got the cloak that's attached to you. You just took down 3 villains on your own, and they're like, okay, yeah, this dude is definitely
he's worth
he
something.
Needs to stick around, yeah.
But that's when that's when Strange flips this shit. He's like, "Whoa, wait a minute, no, I don't agree to that." And the Ancient One is like, "But you gotta." And Strange goes, "Well, what about you? What are you doing?" And he kind of touches on the whole drawing power from the dark dimension thing, which the Ancient One doesn't like to talk about.
Right, and you can tell. And then Mortal is like, that's impossible. She can't be the one. We fight for everything. We stand for a certain thing, which is against the Dormammu thing.
Yeah, and
after that,
she bugs off to leave them to figure it out, but they don't get to figure it out because Caecilius and his minions show right back up again and start to blow up the New York Sanctum.
Yep.
Which leads to our next fight / chase.
Right. So then the Ancient One.
It's a quick movie.
Yeah, it's fast paced, which is good. So then she gets into it with Caecilius, which actually is another good fight scene.
Yeah, but that's after like a long chase sequence in the mirror dimension. And that's where you see all the other Inception stuff with like the buildings falling into themselves and whatnot. Yeah. It's a chase scene. Strange and Mordo are fleeing from Caecilius and his minions because they are super powerful in the mirror dimension that Strange has set up to protect New York. Mm-hmm. So they're running alongside buildings. Caecilius is toppling things. You get your Stan Lee cameo here, a bunch of cool stuff, and then finally the Ancient One comes in to save the day. And they're all, because she's drawing power from the dark dimension, so she's also powerful in the mirror dimension.
So now, and then when you draw any kind of power from the Dormammu dark dimension, whatever, you get the symbol on your forehead.
The symbol of Dormammu.
Right. And so then when she is using her powers, that's when Mordo sees it for the first time. He's like, oh my gosh, it's actually true. She is actually drawing power from him. And in that moment, Mordo was like, it was almost like Jesus, he just found out Jesus Christ was working for the devil kind of thing. Like,
pretty much, yeah.
Like, what is going on? And so after that's revealed, she actually loses the fight.
She gets stabbed by Caecilius and thrown in through a portal. Strange and Mordo go after her, and then they're back at the hospital again, this time trying to save the Ancient One.
Right. And then he senses that she's in her astral form, and he immediately goes out there, and she's on a patio looking at it snow, and she's basically saying, it hasn't snowed yet, but she's saying, I've been able to always see into people's futures, including mine, but mine's always stopped right here no matter what. And when she's talking about Doctor Strange's future, she just says it has endless amount of limitless possibilities. And so she knows these are her final moments, and she said, she wanted to see the snow, I think.
She said she's always she's been looking forward sort of to seeing the snow. She gives Doctor Strange his final lesson, which is basically it's not all about you.
Yeah.
The big running lesson of all this, which I would like to point out, Doctor Strange has been learning very slowly over the course of this entire movie, and it's not ham-fisted at all. Like, he goes from egotistical, and very small things happen along the way that shows that he's learning. Like, when they rush the Ancient One into surgery, he immediately goes to grab the scalpel and stuff, but he can't do it because his hands are shaky, and he passes it off to a guy that he was mocking relentlessly at the beginning of the movie, going, you have to do this. He can give up that pride. So it's a very slow thing, and it's not over the top with heavy speeches or anything.
So then she dies.
Yep.
And then I'm kind of stuck. What happened immediately
So
after
immediately after she dies, Strange returns to the destroyed Camartage where Mordo is, and is trying to convince Mordo, like, look, I know that a bunch of stuff just got really weird for you, but we need to go protect the Hong Kong sanctum because that's where Caecilius is going to wind up going. You know, like, he's not going to go for New York again. He's going to go for Hong Kong. Wong is already there with a bunch of other folks to protect it. I need you to buck up, and we need to go do this. And Mordo goes, you're right. And they go to Hong Kong, and everything's gone to hell. Mm-hmm. They've already lost.
Yeah.
The Dark Dimension's closing in.
Everything is destroyed. And then when Doctor Strange gets there, he has this epiphany moment. He sees that, you know, Dormammu and everything is closing in up top, and he's actually arriving. So he actually flies up.
Well, don't get ahead. Don't get ahead first, because you missed the very next and last sort of fight. Because everything's destroyed, and yes, the Dark Dimension's closing in.
Oh, does the time fight happen first? Okay,
yeah. Doctor Strange, he opens up the Eye of Agamotto and reverses time to try to bring everything back up. Keeping himself and Mordo outside of time, so everything around them is going backwards.
While they're still in real time fighting.
And then once they bring Wong back to life, they bring him out of the time loop, the time reversal. And then Caecilius, using his own magic, brings himself and his minions out of the time loop and start to battle Doctor Strange and Wong and Mordo while everything around them is going backwards.
Right.
So they're dodging car crashes in reverse and buildings rising up out of the ground, and everything is coming back to normal. Things that are being put back together and people being thrown into the things that are being put back together. It's so cool. Yeah.
So then after that, they
eventually
then he has his epiphany.
That's when he understands that, you know, because he gets the spell gets broken and things get frozen for a moment, and Caecilius is like, you can't stop this. Here comes above us is the Dark Dimension, and it exists outside of time, outside of death, and that's when he gets his epiphany and flies up.
And then is when he faces Dormammu.
We finally get to see Dormammu.
And basically, I think he already had it set up where it was going to be in a loop, but Dormammu actually kills Strange.
Yes.
And then Strange approaches Dormammu again. And then he kills Doctor Strange. And then Doctor Strange, basically it's on a loop. So each time Doctor Strange keeps approaching Dormammu, and he's like, I want to make... Yeah.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
I've come to bargain. And basically Doctor Strange is trying to make out a deal with Dormammu to keep him from ever coming back again, and will stop this constant replay if he agrees to that. And Dormammu was like, I don't care. I will never stoop down to your level. So yeah, let's do this over and over again until Dormammu says, I can't do this over and over again.
And because Dormammu says, you will never win, and Doctor Strange says, you're right, but I can lose. Yeah. I can lose forever, and you will never get out of this, and Earth is safe. And to me, that is the most interesting boss fight, because you could have done a basic magic versus magic, shove the bad guy into a portal into another dimension sort of thing, but they didn't. They Groundhog Day'd the whole thing.
Yeah. But I mean, you still get the sense of Dormammu keep using different types of magic to kill Doctor Strange. Oh, yeah, so you see him die in different ways. So after Dormammu actually agrees to everything,
it's
he
just
goes
too
away.
Much. And he brings Caecilius with him because that was part of the agreement. Get your minions with you, and everything gets turned back to normal because Strange was able to outsmart Dormammu instead of just battle of the strength. It was battle of the wits.
Yeah.
And he won.
So now that Doctor Strange is back in the city, Mordo is like, I can't do this. This is not what I stand for.
Everything that I've ever believed in has now been violated. The Ancient One broke her vows, you broke time, everything is wrong.
Everything is just all screwed up now. And so he actually leaves, and him and Wong is like, okay, well, whatever, we're going to keep doing our thing. The very end of it.
They return the Agamotto Eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much
at that point.
The movie doesn't end with him like kissing a girl or him standing on top of a building showing that he saved the day.
No, he's in the sanctum in New York, and he's basically pondering like, what do I do now? Like
I think it kind of reminds me like this is like a comic book, because comic books don't really necessarily end how superhero movies traditionally end, and I think the way they end it is like, okay, this is the end of this comic book. And then when you read the next Doctor Strange comic book, you just go right into the story.
Pretty much. And I think that's really cool because Yeah, it's not like Iron Man, where he's like, I've made a decision to be a superhero now. It's not. It's not like all these other things. Doctor Strange now, like he's now been put into a position of guardian of Earth.
Yeah.
And he doesn't quite know what to do with that.
Yeah, and like I had posted before, I said Doctor Strange is really powerful in this movie, like to the point where this is your first movie and you're already that powerful, and he's only going to get better, and that's why I'm like, okay, so the Marvel villains have to be at a certain level of strength going forward, because once you have Doctor Strange on your team, it's like. And then they're going to have Captain Marvel's going to come soon too. And with them two automatically.
Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, and Wanda are just going to lay waste to things. So you have to have a high caliber, like Thanos at his prime, get Dormammu in there. It's going to be intense.
So then after the movie, you have your first mid-credit scene, which opens up with Thor. And basically, he's sitting down with Doctor Strange and they're having a talk. And the whole premise is that Thor is trying to find his father, Odin. I don't remember catching the part about the whole Loki, so I guess you can...
So Doctor Strange is talking with Thor because he's basically... This is where Doctor Strange...
And at this time he has the yellow gloves,
He has the yellow gloves on. They're not leopard print, but they're yellow gloves. And he's talking about how he keeps track of all the... the threats to Earth, and he says, and your brother is one of them, and you decided to bring him to Earth. Why? And Thor goes, well, we are finding my father. So this is a little weird, because if you remember the end of Thor Dark World, Thor thinks that Loki's dead. That's the last time he saw him. This is obviously in the present, so this has to occur during Thor Ragnarok.
See, this is where it gets confusing, because people, even online right now, no one knows where this movie takes place. Does it take place after the first Avengers? Like, me personally think it was before Civil War, and that's why Thor wasn't there, because technically Thor is off with Doctor Strange. So when we see the next Thor movie, he's going to obviously be with Doctor Strange now, and this will explain why they aren't around. We already see the Avengers Tower in the city, so obviously it took place after Avengers Part 1. So it has to be between the ending of Avengers 1 but before Civil War.
I'm convinced that the movie spans that entire time frame, which is very strange because the movie is such a fast movie, but I think it kicks off around Avengers time, and then moves all the way through time to around Civil War time frame, because the Avengers are mentioned briefly as, the Avengers are protecting the Earth, but by the time we get to Civil War, they're very much not protecting the Earth anymore. Everybody knows it. So I think it spans the entire Phase 2 run, actually.
I guess we'll see when the next Marvel film come out, which is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
But I don't think that they're actually going to touch on anything.
They're not going to touch on that. But when we get to Thor Ragnarok later that year, I believe, that's when we're going to see Doctor Strange again with Thor, because Doctor Strange says, so if you find your father, then you and your brother will leave Earth. Well, let me help you.
Yeah. Then there's also a rumor that Thor is going to be phased out of the future phases. So if Thor agrees to that, then that means that we're not going to see Thor for a good while.
Yeah.
So then we have our second after credit scene, which basically shows Mordo going back to Benjamin Bratt and taking because Benjamin Bratt is constantly using magic.
That's how he can walk
from
again.
being paralyzed, and so Mordo just takes that straight from him like it was nothing. And now Benjamin Bratt paralyzed again, and Mordo's whole thing is that we can't just have sorcerers going around doing their own thing. And so that makes him a villain now, because now I guess his whole plot is to go around the city or the world, basically taking the powers back from these sorcerers.
Because there's just too many of them.
And obviously his ultimate goal is going to be Doctor Strange. But my question is, so when he took that power from Benjamin Bratt, does he now have his magic, or he just stripped him from it?
Mordo now possesses the the power that he pulled. Now Benjamin Bratt doesn't have special magic. He's just drawing energy.
So he's getting like almost like how a head witch does when she goes around stealing all the other witches' powers. And
pretty much, yeah. He's becoming more powerful so that he can raise up in level to defeat stronger and stronger.
So basically,
magicians.
if his only power was to levitate off the ground, and Mordo just snatched that off him, then now Mordo has the power to levitate off the ground.
Not quite. It's more like it's just more like Mordo is now stronger. It
Just
might
an entity.
it might entail
Like a point system. Like his
Yeah.
level goes up because he took away.
Yeah,
20
yeah,
points
exactly.
from
He's
him.
not like
Okay.
Rogue. It might entail getting additional powers because the stronger you are, the more things you can do. But he's not taking their specific abilities. He's taking their magic out of them into himself because there are too many sorcerers in the world, and he wants to fix that. So now we have a setup for Baron Mordo as a villain, and Chiwetel Ejiofor is going to just absolutely nail it because he's an amazing actor.
So basically, that's how the movie ends. But going forward, I am looking forward to more Doctor Strange and other films because I think before they even have another Doctor Strange film, he's gonna have to be in obviously Thor. He's obviously gonna be hopefully he's gonna be in Infinity War. I would think
He'll be in Infinity
he has
War.
To be.
Yeah, he'll definitely be in Infinity War. I don't know what they're doing with movies, before.
Well, you have
beyond.
because there's one more Infinity Stone because if they're fighting Thanos, he has to have all the stones, right? So we still got the Soul Gem that's left out there.
It's somewhere.
We don't know where it's going to come in. I mean, Black Panther comes out in 2018. Infinity War also comes out in...
I think it comes out at the end of 2018.
No, next year.
No, Infinity War is not next year.
It's not?
No, next year.
No, next war.
Next year is
is Thor, Guardians of the Galaxy.
And possibly Black Panther?
Black Panther is 2018.
Okay, then
for
Black
sure.
Panther's 2018, and I think Infinity War is like either the end of 2018
Oh,
or
yeah,
2019.
28. No, the part 2 is 2019.
Okay.
2018 is part 1. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So he has
Timelines.
chances to be in other movies before, but I don't know how they're going to do this whole trilogy with every new character. So I don't even know when they would even make another Doctor Strange. But I would love to see Doctor Strange appear in a Spider-Man film or vice versa because my favorite episode of the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoons is when Spider-Man goes to visit Doctor Strange, and it also has
Absolutely.
Cloak and Dagger in there, and I can watch that episode over and over again. So I want to see that dynamic.
And Doctor Strange and Spider-Man is my favorite pairing as well. That happens a lot in the comics. I think they're very cool. It's like they're very, very different heroes. They address things very, very separately. So working together is always a very cool dynamic.
And I just really feel like the deal that Marvel may have made with Fox, it has to include Silver Surfer and Galactus and Fantastic Four because honestly, Marvel wants Fantastic Four more than they want the X-Men, sadly. And I mean, because once you get Galactus, oh my gosh, like that can be the next bad guy
That's
after
a
the whole
threat.
Thanos thing. So, and yeah, we'll Marvel, I mean, Fox will give you all the X-Men TV shows you want. Just give us Silver Surfer and Galactus and Fantastic Four a little bit and we'll be good. But more so Silver Surfer and Galactus more than anything. So I'm looking forward to that. And
So yeah,
that's pretty much it.
that was Doctor Strange, beginning to end. We loved it. I'm very excited. I think that they paid massive respect to the source material while updating some things. I wasn't thrilled about the Eye of Agamotto being an Infinity Stone because that's
I
something...
already knew that, though.
I knew it was going to happen, but to
I
me,
was like, it made sense to me.
it makes sense, but now it's something that Thanos can take as opposed to its own entity. But
Yeah.
I can forgive my comic fandom for this movie.
As long as it makes
I can let
sense.
it go.
As long as it
Yeah,
makes sense,
because it
yeah.
makes sense. Their choices make sense, and it flows well, and it's very well executed. So I can forgive that nerdom for the sake of this movie.
Well, a lot
Very
of people
much.
saying, I think that people are saying that the Soul Gem is probably going to be with Heimdall from Thor, because of the yellow and some other stuff. But they're thinking it was between.
I'm not
him.
sure. I think it'd be interesting if they had the Soul Gem not come in until Infinity War. Like, make it just like the first thing that...
Yeah, it would
that he
make
goes
sense
for.
because it could be Thanos' whole thing is that he needs to get the last 2 stones, but the sole purpose of the last stone could be the driving force of the movie. So
It could be, because we know where all the other stones are. None of them are in Thanos' possession.
Right.
So, maybe he goes for the Soul Gem first, and that helps him get to the other stones.
Yeah. So that was our review of Doctor Strange. All right, guys. So now it's time for movie karaoke with Zach, and he is going to lead us in exactly what he's going to be doing.
All right, so one of my favorite movies is the Western film from the 90s, Tombstone. Stars Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer as Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. Slew of other talented actors. It's all about the telling of Wyatt Earp in his time in Arizona after Dodge City. protecting the town, fighting off the gang of cowboys that have overrun the town, taking up the lawman mantle again. It's a great film. It's wonderfully executed. It's timeless, amazing action, and it's one of Val Kilmer's best roles to date. Val Kilmer plays Doc Holliday, who's sort of a good guy, sort of a bad guy. He's a friend of Wyatt Earp's, but he's not a good person deep down. He does good things from time to time, but he's very much his own man. He's crafty and witty and clever and deadly, and he's just a lot of fun. And so one of my favorite scenes is this scene where, spoilers I guess, where Doc steps in, unbeknownst to Wyatt, to a gunfight to the death, so that he can spare Wyatt from possibly dying against Johnny Ringo, who's supposed to be one of the other deadliest guns. And Doc is suffering from tuberculosis. He's weak, but he still has that wit and that bite to him. It's a game, even though it's to the death. It's just general fun to him. And I love how it's delivered.
All right. Well, let's see him in action.
Well. I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Why,
Johnny Ringo. Like somebody just walked over your grave.
Fight's not with you, Holiday.
I'll
Beg to differ, sir.
We started a game we never got to finish. Played for blood, remember?
I was just fooling about.
I
I wasn't.
What grade would you give yourself?
On a scale of 1 to Huckleberry, I'd put myself around an 8.
An 8? Okay. Well,
I don't know if that's on your grading scale, but
I will see what the producers put right here. I'm not sure, but I know 8 will be in the answer somehow. I guess we'll have to see, because you hate it or you love it. I don't know. Well, thanks everyone for another episode of The Green Show, and we'll see you next week with another special guest.